The big news, as Michael was saying, very excited. The announcement has come down. It hasn't been an official press release, but all the major news outlets have been talking about the fact, and the actors themselves, that there is a Superman and Lois TV series in development at the CW. It's obviously going to be a spin-off starring Tyler Hoechlin and Elizabeth Bitsy Tulloch in their roles that they've played on the Supergirl series and the crossovers that they've had on the other shows as well. It's probably going to be out in 2020, but it will be a show following on from those characters and what we've known about them and what we will find out about them in the upcoming Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover.
Yeah, I am both surprised and not surprised. Like, I've seen a lot of people out there saying, "Oh, well, this is like a no-brainer." I never assume something involving Superman in live action is a no-brainer until something is officially announced. Because the first tweet I got took me to a site that I'm like, "Oh, this isn't real," and then the next one was because that one was from Heroic Hollywood, and I'm like, "Oh, so this is just another." One of those Photoshop jobs. It's like, well, what would it look like? And then I'm like, no, the Hollywood Reporter is talking about this. Mm-hmm. And then I'm like, okay, this is why you always, as Ronald Reagan quoted in Russian, trust but verify. You always want to make sure that some reputable, and when I say reputable, I'm not saying that Heroic Hollywood isn't reputable, but its reputation nowadays is Photoshop of Grant Gustin in another Flash outfit. And while that's entertaining and it gets clicks, that's not hard news. And you got things like We Got This Covered that's crowing, because, pun intended, that they scooped everybody on the Tom Welling and Crisis thing, but even a broken clock is right twice a day. So when something like the Hollywood Reporter and then Bitsy Tulloch, tweets about it or Facebooks about it, it's like, okay, this is the real deal. The other thing that really made me feel good is we've got a showrunner and they've got a direction. So it's not just, oh, we're thinking about this. No, they've got people on it. And if they're announcing at this point that they have people on it, the chances of this going through increase dramatically.
Yeah, indeed. So what we do know is IGN.com and everybody else, they said Variety and Heroic, everybody was pretty much stating the fact that it's in development. It's going to be focusing on the pressures that Lois and Clark face, balancing their professional lives as reporters, their superhero responsibilities as far as Superman is concerned, and the complexities of raising a child, which, as we know, in the recent crossover that they had, Elseworlds crossover, it was announced that obviously Lois was pregnant with their child, and they were headed off-world to Argo City, where under a red sun she would safely be able to carry the baby to term. And that's why they were going off planet. And so obviously in the upcoming Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover, we will see the pair back involved in some capacity with child in arm, and the spin-off series will probably pick up from that.
Yeah, it's interesting to me that this is the direction they're going in after the comics have kind of abandoned that storyline, which is actually kind of cool, because a lot of people liked seeing Lois and Clark and their kid.
Yeah,
and I when they aged up John, my reaction was and realized that I have these reactions mainly for like a coping mechanism. Like, it's not like I necessarily agree with the decision, but I always fall back on the just accepting it, because I have absolutely no power in this, and I could complain about it all day long, but it's not going to change anything.
Yeah.
So my feeling was, if you age John, then you don't have to worry about having him be 10 years old for 30 years. That's not to say that I don't want to see that. I'm just saying things can get stale, and if you've ever seen what happened to Franklin Richards in the pages of the Fantastic Four, weird things can happen. So the fact that they abandoned that idea, and now John's in the future with the Legion, I'm like, okay, whatever. But if you're going to tell me there's going to be a TV series with two people that I really like in the roles playing parents, and it's going to be such a different type of Superman show, like I'm sure that you're going to have your super villains and you're going to have your overarching storylines that go through the season, but at the same time you're going to have Lois and Clark raising a child and dealing with the not only the normal wear and tear of having a kid, but also the kid's part alien. Is he going to develop superpowers? How does Superman react to that? Will Clark fall back on the teachings of his parents, Jonathan and Martha? Are they going to cast Jonathan and Martha? Are we going to get Perry White? Will Jimmy show up for an episode or two, which would be kind of cool? There's all these questions, and of course the big albatross in the room for me is you obviously at some point have to have a Lex Luthor storyline, because he was great on Supergirl. Man, I want to see him up against Superman. I mean, it's nothing against Supergirl, but Lex is Superman's enemy. So, no, there's just so many things about this that I'm just excited about. I mean, again, it's just an initial announcement. There's no air date. There's no filming date. But I have a feeling that, one, they've been sitting on this a while, and two, they floated this out there, are gauging response, and now based on how the reaction to Superman's end of the crisis is going to be, that's going to be the final, okay, we're finally going through with this.
So a couple of things that I'd like to see. Obviously, we're going to get to see the Daily Planet in some capacity. So we need to see a Perry White. Obviously, this is down the track. So James, as we just saw in the latest episode of Supergirl, is off doing his own thing in his old hometown with a newspaper that he's bought and published, being a publisher of there. So yeah, it would be nice to see Mehcad Brooks drop in from time to time, and I guess now he's available to do that. Who they cast as Perry White will be interesting. Whether we see other cast members of the Daily Planet, staff members, will be interesting to see who they go with and how much they are involved. Jonathan and Martha, will that eventuate? Are they alive in this iteration? The baby, will it be a toddler, a small child? What age will they have it once the show picks up? Because they can decide at any particular point in time how old the baby is when they start to pick up this show, depending on when the show begins and airs. So that'll be interesting. Also, I'm keen to see whether or not they redesign the costume. That's one, they've created this costume for the Supergirl TV series, but even the Supergirl costume in its own series has developed and changed. Will they listen to the fans and make some alterations as far as especially the cape is concerned? I would like to see that. Looking at Brandon Routh's costume for Kingdom Come, will they go, well, that looks fantastic on Brandon, why don't we go with the red trunks again? Any of those kind of different aspects. Will they decide, look, we tried that, it worked for this, will we maybe adapt that for the new Superman and Lois series? And is that what it's called? Is it called Superman and Lois, as has been quoted?
Yeah, when you started talking about Brandon's outfit, I'm like, that's exactly how you do it. Like, he sees it and goes, that doesn't look too bad. He's pulling it off. I've got the physique. It's just... going to a more traditional outfit. I mean, they changed Kara's outfit. Yes. They gave her pants. And actually, that suit is really growing on me. I think it's because the S is reflective. Like, when she's walking under light sources, it glows a little bit. So it actually looks kind of cool. And I'm like, well, if they can change her costume, why can't they change his costume? They're not beholden to it anymore. No, and don't get me wrong, people saying in the comments that they like Tyler's costume. I don't dislike it. There are just certain aspects of it that if it was up to me, I would make some alterations on. You mentioned the people who are connected with it. It's going to be produced by the Berlanti Productions, which do all the CW superhero shows, Warner Brothers Television. It's going to be written and executive produced by Todd Helbing, who was the former showrunner of The Flash, which is probably my favourite of the CW superhero shows. Greg Berlanti, Sarah Schechter, and Jeff Johns will also be executive producers on the series. So, yeah, 2 thumbs up. Yeah, no, seriously. The fact that Johns is involved, well, one, makes me think there's going to be a lot of references to Superman the movie, and that's totally okay. But I think with his involvement in this as an executive producer, if he has any kind of power, it's going to be basically the opposite of the Man of Steel situation, where he could only make suggestions, but ultimately they didn't listen to him. If that article that came out a couple years ago is to be believed, that he looked at this and said, "This isn't what we need to do." And the fact that Henry Cavill talked about the conversations he had with Jeff Johns during the reshoots on Justice League make me think that Johns is just chomping at the bit to do a Superman in live action that matches more of what he wants to see. And since what he likes and what I like kind of line up, the easy thing to say here is I like this because I like that Superman. It's super obvious, no pun intended there. But the fact of the matter is I'm sorry that the DCEU didn't work out. I really do. I feel bad for the people that like that Superman, because they're never really going to see that Superman play out beyond his origin and his death and his resurrection. There's going to be no exploration of that unless the TV series does good and they decide to do a new movie. I mean, Flash was in Justice League while Grant Gustin was on the air, so it's not out of the question at this point. But at the same time, I wasn't really a fan of that Superman. And Superman Returns didn't really rock my world, and Smallville was never a Superman show. You can argue that it was. I've heard good arguments on that, but that was about Clark Kent. It was about Clark Kent becoming Superman. So now, for the first time since Lois and Clark, or the animated series if you want to get really pedantic, we're going to have a show that is about Superman and Lois, and about their relationship, and about them going to that next level. And I think I have seen people that are hardcore DCAU fans like Tyler Hoechlin's version of the character. I've seen the opposite. But I've seen enough of them to go, wow, this looks really cool, that I'm like, this has enough general appeal. We're probably at least going to get a season or two out of it. These CW shows tend to stick around.
Yeah.
I just hope they don't put it and Supergirl on the same night, because I don't want Super Sunday to become a thing at all. I think putting him on the same night as The Flash would probably be a good match.
Well, if Arrow's about to finish, there's a time slot there that could open up. As you said, Bitsy Tulloch took to social media to say, cat's out of the bag, I finally can talk about this. And she said, "I'm so excited. Thank you, Warner Brothers TV, DC Comics, and CW, Greg Berlanti, etc. Our incredible showrunner, Ted Helbing, is writing such a riveting, unique, and poignant story for us. And I couldn't ask for a better or more fun partner than Tyler," which all sounds fantastic. Tyler himself also took to social media and on his Instagram account said, "I couldn't be more grateful for the opportunity to tell this story that for now shall remain a secret. But I've been blessed with nothing less than the most wonderful people to do it alongside of. I couldn't ask for a better partner than Bitsy Tulloch in all of this. I've already learned so much from her, and I know that won't stop anytime soon. Thank you, Greg Berlanti, and everyone else who brought her in as our Lois. All the people behind the scenes care so much about these characters and their lives and the parts to which we'll be speaking about. It gives me great comfort to know that they'll steer us in the right direction. Thank you to everyone that said yes to this project. We won't let you down. It's going to be a grand adventure. Can't wait to get to work." So all exciting, positive stuff there from both actors.
I'm going to throw a monkey wrench into this conversation. As Uncle Clark, Brandon Routh, as that Earth Superman coming to live on this Earth after his Earth has been destroyed. I'm just saying.
Yeah, why not?
It would be great.
He's not doing anything either. He's taking some time off, having left DC's Legends of Tomorrow. So yeah, it opens up a lot of space for these people to be involved in something.
Yeah, and depending on how Crisis goes, it does open up having occasional crossovers with former Supermen. Because if this Crisis is like the original Crisis, they're going to get rid of the multiverse, which I hate. I wasn't around for comics at the time that it happened, so I don't have a dog in that fight. And I can argue both sides of that, but I like the multiverse aspect of this because then anything is possible. And, if you're going to... The only hiccup to all of this is that the first 5 seasons of Supergirl have taken a lot of great Superman concepts and used it for her show. But the flip side to that is, one, you can always bring Metallo back. That's an easy one. I mean, It doesn't have to be Otis. It can be somebody else. But there are so many other great Superman villains that they haven't put on the screen yet.
Yes.
That I would just Riot. Remember Riot, the guy
one that
hit him and he splits into another thing. That would be awesome to see. I mean, there's just like all these things that they can do. I am seriously so happy about this that it completely makes up for the fact that I'm not going to be reading the comics for the time being. So it's like I still get a Superman. It's just going to be in a different format.
Yeah, so we just hang on every word that comes out from these reports. I'm sure there'll be bits and pieces dropped here and there over the next few months as things start to pick up, and once Crisis on Infinite Earths hits our screens. So really looking forward to this. We're both excited for it. Obviously, the Superman homepage will be covering every little tidbit that comes out about this TV series. So make sure you stay tuned to supermanhomepage.com for everything in regards to Superman and Lois.